I recently got a message from someone about a case that once I looked into, I just couldn't believe there wasn't more information or more detail about. A case where the police are quoted as saying they don't think the disappearance is all that suspicious. Well, here we are 5 years later, and John Lee still has not been found. Thank you to this very caring person that told me about it. We're going to share some details I haven't seen anywhere else. We're also going to go through all of the publications and pull together as much as we can about this story and try to raise exposure to help the family of John Lee. But before that, we also have updates on Marina Bischoff and Trevon Perry. It's time to turn on the searchlight. Welcome to another episode of Brainscratch Searchlight. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Before we get into John Lee's case, we have a couple of very quick updates. Let's start with the case of Marina Bischoff. If you're unfamiliar with the case, I'll have a link in the description box below to the previous videos on this case. She's missing from Kansas City, Missouri, last seen May 28th, 2020. And this isn't necessarily a direct update. It might be. But we're not 100% sure. Over at kmbc.com, we see the headline, 10-year-old boy finds human remains near banks of Shoal Creek. And if you remember the case, Shoal Creek is the area very close to the police station. As a matter of fact, this article notes that as well, where Marina was last seen. Kansas City, Missouri police are investigating after a child found human remains along the banks of Shoal Creek in the Northland Sunday. Police said a 10-year-old boy was along the banks of Shoal Creek, not far from the Shoal Creek Police Division area, when he found human remains and called for help. Police said they have yet to identify those remains. So, you know, we see this in cases quite frequently where we get updates like this. I speak to families that just go through this terrible ride every time an announcement like this comes out. There is dread. There is hope that maybe they're at least getting some of the answers that they're looking for. And in many cases, these types of announcements come back that, you know, the body has been identified. It's not the person that we were looking for. I'm concerned about this update in particular because of the location. It's not typical that the location is so close to what we know was the search area. It does make you kind of curious about what happened with the searches if this is indeed Marina and she's found that close to the police station. But please keep in mind that the terrain did look pretty thick around there, and we still don't know what the conditions are in terms of manner of death for these remains. So a lot of things to still consider. I haven't reached out to Marina's brother yet. I'm sure that he is on that terrible ride that I was talking about. But as soon as there is confirmation, if confirmation's coming, I will certainly reach out to him with my condolences. And of course, I'll echo all the great comments and support that came from you guys as well. That's where we're at with it right now. This might not be Marina. I'm kind of concerned because of the location that it could be. But let's go ahead and continue with a quick update on Trevon Perry's case, missing from Paso Robles, California, last seen March 15th, 2020. Of course, if you've seen the last update, you know he was found deceased. He was found in Riverside, quite a bit of a ways away from Paso Robles. But let's get some more updates on here. Police detectives arrested a 24-year-old Paso Robles woman on Tuesday for her alleged involvement in the murder of Trevon Perry. Officers arrested Viviana Rodriguez for suspicion of being an accessory to murder and booked her into the San Luis Obispo County Jail. And here we have a picture of Viviana. Now, I already announced on the last update we had an arrest there. Nicholas Christopher Ron Jr. was previously arrested. As of July 1st, we do have charges. He's been charged with the March 15th, 2020 murder of Paso Robles resident Trevon Gary Montway Perry, 27 years old. It's further alleged that Mr. Ron used a firearm to commit the murder. So just a little more detail, charges filed, and potentially an accessory to the murder that has also been arrested. That's it for the updates at this point. Let's go ahead and talk about today's new case. This is the NamUs profile for John Lee. We can see he is a male, Asian, went missing at the age of 21, would currently be 27 years old. And right off the bat, I just want to say that's a big cause for concern for me. Do we have instances where people disappear, they want to start a new life or something like that? Absolutely. In several of those instances, there is some form of contact or reconnection that happens a matter of years later, and that varies. Sometimes it could be a couple years. I mean, there's instances we've seen where sometimes it can even be decades. We're getting very concerned here, particularly when we look at this case and kind of what we do know has happened around it. I'm also just surprised that we don't have a great journalist or kind of media presence that really dug into this case. From what I can see, I'm not seeing a lot of comments from the family engaging media. There's a very strong comment that they are certainly asking for help, but I'm not seeing any interviews with family members or anything like that available. So we're going to try to piece together what we can. And like I said, I've got a little bit of inside information from someone that actually knows John. But let's continue with the NamUs profile. He stands at, on most demographics I'm seeing, he's around 5'7". His weight, 265 to 275. In other places I'm seeing he could weigh as much as 280 pounds. Missing from Appleton, Wisconsin. Date of last contact, June 20th, 2015. Last known location, they're just saying Appleton, Wisconsin here, and that's a little bit of a question for me as well. It's pretty rare in a missing persons case that we don't actually get the last known location released. And as you're going to see as we weave through the details here, we know that this isn't the last, that his home is not the last known location, but that's the only address we're kind of given. There's more to the story, but for some reason we don't have a better location. I might be able to help with that by the end of this video. Circumstances of disappearance. Lee's vehicle and phone were left at a friend's house, and he's not been seen since. Very big cause for concern when you have personal items like that left behind, and items that mean something to someone. I mean, a guy that's 21 years old, your car and your phone, that's probably like the center of your life at that point. So leaving those items behind at a friend's house, right off the bat for me, sounds like it's mysterious circumstances. So they have some notes here about who to contact. I've got contact information in the description box below. I can verify that the sergeant that's listed down there is at least responsive. I haven't gotten information from him, but he has responded to let me know that he's gotten my message. John has black hair, brown eyes, a mole on his back, but not much else in terms of scars or marks. No tattoos that are noted here or anything like that. Clothing and accessories, we don't even have a solid description on what he was last seen wearing, which, once again, I'm just thinking about the basics of missing persons investigations. If you spoke to a friend that, hey, I've got John's vehicle here and his phone, wouldn't there have been some interaction there? I mean, did John literally drive up in front of his friend's house, just leave the car there with his phone in it and go taking off, and his friend never got to see him? Someone saw him last, and I'm very surprised that we don't have any clothing or accessory description. For transportation information, they don't have it listed here, and some information I'm seeing says that he might have driven a purple Mazda. I don't know what year, I don't know what make. I'm just putting that out there in case it might be helpful to someone that was around Appleton, Wisconsin, might have seen a vehicle like that in a strange place. Maybe that's some helpful bit that will get a tip called in or something like that. But that's about all that I have. Moving on to Facebook, the Wisconsin Missing Person Advocacy Group has a pretty good write-up on this, so we're going to start here for some of the basics. John Lee disappeared suddenly on June 21st, 2015. The Appleton Police Department responded to a criminal trespass complaint in the 1200 block of East Taft Avenue. John Lee was interviewed about the trespassing complaint at his home. Later in the evening, he went missing. His family reported his disappearance to the Appleton Police Department the following day. So this is one of the things, I'm already looking at this kind of sideways when I hear that he left his car and he left his phone behind and left him with a friend. But now we're hearing that there was something else, that he actually interacted with the police on the same day, and it specifically was because it seemed like someone was trying to or did break into his home. Now, from the information I'm getting, this is not official. This is not coming through the news sites. I do believe he was living with his parents at that time. So it's one of those things that makes you wonder what the heck happened around his home. Is there any information that we can get from that report that might inform us in terms of what's going on with his disappearance? Possibly. I have seen a version of that report. We're going to go over that very soon. The Appleton Police Department would like to ensure John's welfare by making contact with him. So let's do a quick jump just to learn a little bit about Appleton. Appleton is a city situated on the Fox River, 30 miles southwest of Green Bay and 100 miles north of Milwaukee. The population was over 72,000 people at the 2010 census. And to at least get some type of map going on this, we know the address that was reported, and I saw it confirmed in news sites, as somewhere in the 1200 block of East Taft Avenue. But this is where the home invasion call happened. This isn't where John disappeared from. The story that we're hearing, of course, is he takes his vehicle somewhere, leaves it at a friend's house. We have no idea where that is. A friend's house could be within blocks of this, could be within miles of this, could be in a different state. We literally have no idea. And why we're not getting the basics like last known location out in this case, I really don't know. I'm not sure. But this is the area. If we kick on the satellite view, you can see, it's just a ton of housing. This is a pretty good size city for this area. Plenty of businesses that are around this housing. But in terms of I'm always looking for where are cameras around this. It's tough because this isn't his real last known location. So even though we've got an elementary school right across the street here that might have some cameras that are capturing things that are going on the street, at most we would probably learn the direction of where he drove to. And it seems like police already know that. So this is certainly one of those cases where it seems like in order to help the police, we just need some better detail to come out so that we're asking the right questions of the right people to maybe get those tips to shake loose. But for some reason, it seems like the police aren't necessarily all that concerned with this case, at least in one comment that we get in particular from them. Let's continue and read another article before we get to that comment. Over at fox11online.com, the family of a missing 22-year-old Appleton man is making a public plea for help. And that is basically all that I've seen. I've seen that same type of statement in several different articles, but I'm not seeing any direct quotes from his family. I believe he has siblings also. I'm not really seeing any quotes from them, at least in terms of the media around this. Police say Lee's vehicle and phone were left at a friend's house. Officers have done interviews and checked records, but have not been able to find him. His family has privately sought information as well. Obviously, if he left his phone behind, there's probably not a ton outside of looking at his social media information, seeing who he's communicating with, kind of checking in with them. But his phone obviously isn't going to be super helpful if he left it behind. I'm curious about the records that they checked. Are we talking financial records? Was his wallet left behind? Did he take his bank cards with him? Is his ID with him? Some of those questions that we quite frequently seen put out as information to help with these cases, once again, we're just not getting in this case. Over at thepostcrescent.com, the disappearance of a 22-year-old Appleton man is not believed to be suspicious, police said. Sergeant Dave Lund said Appleton police received calls, but none of those leads panned out. Quote, "We are not calling the disappearance suspicious," Lund said in an email to Post Crescent Media. "There are simply a number of unanswered questions. We hope with public assistance to answer some of those questions." I did look into Sergeant Dave Lund just a little bit, just a quick search on it. It seems like a good upstanding guy. Looks like he might have worked as a public information officer. I don't know if that's still his current position. I was kind of hoping it was because I thought it might get him to talk a little bit easier to someone like me who's trying to raise exposure to this case. I did send him a message as well with a bunch of questions. I haven't heard back, but I'm not sure if he's still working at this or not. It seems like he's been in this job for several decades, and I'm not sure if he is retired between when this happened and now. So I didn't only reach out to him, but I reached out to the other sergeant. And like I told you guys, I did hear from him that at least my questions have been sent to their superior. I haven't heard back on that. And admittedly, you guys know how I work. I'm looking at a case maybe at the most a few days before I'm airing something and putting it out there. So they haven't had a ton of information or a ton of time to get back to me. But one person did get back to me. Of course, the person that originally told me about this case. And let's share with you the information that I got from them. So I just want to take a moment once again to thank they said they're an acquaintance of John's, but once they started sharing information with me, sure seems like it was a friend, like a very good acquaintance. They also gave me some more information about him. I did get to see the police report about what happened at his home the night before he disappeared. John Lee was born June 26th, 1994. His friends say he loved to make people laugh, and he does have several siblings. He attended Appleton East High School. Classmates remember that John loved hanging out with friends and dancing. In particular, he liked to do the Gangnam Style dance. The police report about the break-in states that it happened around 4 p.m. on June 20th, 2015. It just hits me. That's kind of a strange time for a break-in. It states someone was in reporting party's house. They left now, and the reporting party would like the officer to come and check the rest of the house. It's unknown if anyone else is inside. Reporting party is waiting outside in a car. And that's where I got the description about the purple Mazda. So honestly, the purple Mazda might not have even been John's car. It might be another family member's car. A woman at the house stated that she heard them coming up the stairs and she saw a vehicle that left. It was a black truck, older, with a topper or a shell on the back of the truck. My source says that John may have been walking around an area called Tallulah Park before he disappeared. They have heard that some searches may have occurred in the Fox River. Of course, even when I was reading the description to you guys about this area, as soon as I hear the word river and that combined with a missing person, I'm already nervous. John may have also reached out to a friend about something that he was upset about before he disappeared, but I don't have any further detail on what that topic was. I don't know if it's related to the attempted break-in at his home. I don't know if he might know who that person was. Maybe he knows a bit more about what was going on around all that. For me personally, it just seems kind of bizarre that you would have two events like this that are happening so closely. And I know I've kind of done this analysis on cases before, but when you have someone that's talking to the police earlier that day and they go missing later that day, and they're talking to the police specifically because someone was trying to break into their house, I mean, I don't know how you don't consider that suspicious at that point. And I didn't get anything, at least from the small redacted version of the report about the break-in. I didn't get any sense of there being a real resolution to that. So I don't know if that investigation hit a dead end. I don't know if they hit something with that investigation where they're like, oh, it turned out to be a friend of his and they were just joking around. I don't know. It could be that that is much less important than it seems. But looking at the basics of what we have for this case, someone trying to break into his house, he's calling about it, he talks to police about it, he goes missing later that night. That certainly sounds like suspicious circumstances to me. So I did reach out to Sergeant Lund. I asked him several questions, including specifically about his comment that they don't consider the disappearance suspicious. And I also asked, do they consider it suspicious now? Because here we are several years later and we still don't know where John Lee is. Like I mentioned, I haven't heard back from him. It's been a little longer than a day, so it might still come in, and if it does, we'll do an update. I also reached out to Sergeant Thao, the person listed as the contact for this case. He's the one that did reply to me, but just told me that my request was sent to his supervisor. If I get any further detail from him, we'll also share that in a case update on this channel. So let's take a look at a map real quick, because Tallulah Park, unfortunately, is right on the banks of the Fox River. And if we take a look at the Fox River, we can see this thing is pretty substantial and runs all the way down into Lake Winnebago. So I'm definitely concerned if there's something around that. But once again, hearing police say they don't consider the disappearance suspicious, it just makes me wonder, did they hear something about him wanting to run away from his life, going somewhere else to start over? I'm just getting kind of mixed messages in terms of all this, and I'm just trying to share the best information that I can with you guys, and I'm begging, please help me raise exposure to this case. I've seen conversation threads about this case where people are like, oh yeah, I live in that area. I never heard anything about this. And I don't doubt it, because the coverage on this case, while there are several articles, they're basically just repeating a press release. No one, it seems, has been able to get in contact with the family. Even the person that told me about this case has been having some difficulty getting in contact with the family. Let me just offer right here to any of John's family, if you have information that you think is important to help raise exposure, maybe get the tips called in about where John is, or if something happened to him, please reach out to me. You can email me at john@lordenarts.com. We've got all kinds of different ways to handle that information. If you want to do an interview, we can do that. If you don't want to be on camera, we can do that. I'll figure out some way to get that information out, and my amazing audience will help me share that information. So once again, guys, if you have friends in this area, in Wisconsin, please share this video with them. Let's get some more eyes, ears, and hearts open and looking for John Lee. Now, I did just want to talk about one shining spot in this investigation. I'm always moved when families that have missing loved ones try to help other people, and we have an example of that happen in this case. Over at WashingtonTimes.com, billboards in Wisconsin give hope to families of missing. Marcia Loritz is still heartbroken over the sudden and unexplained disappearance of her mother, Victoria Prokopovich, 4 years ago. So what does she do? She puts together this great program. She coordinates with a billboard company, and every April they featured information on missing persons cases, including her mother's, but they also featured information on John Lee's case, an Appleton man who went missing on June 21st, 2015. 7 billboards, 1 in Appleton, 3 in Green Bay, 1 in Door County, and 2 in Milwaukee, began featuring information on 176 missing people. This is the second year of the program, and Lamar Advertising is the one that donated the use of their billboards. And we actually have an update from Wisconsin Missing Persons Advocacy Incorporated. It looks like Lamar is still donating that space, and it looks like this program is still happening. This is a screenshot from April 9th, 2020, specifically about John Lee. My hat's off to Lamar. What a great way to give back to your community. It always moves me to see when people are helping each other in these efforts, and I hope you'll be part of that by helping me share today's video about John Lee. And I hope if the sergeants that I've reached out to, if you're watching this video, please help me help you guys. We need some better detail. We need to know the questions to focus on. Last known location, clothing description, any taps on his financial records, anything found in terms of the cell phone investigation. How can we help his family find the answers that they're looking for? Right now, this is just, we don't even have a story at this point. We've got a couple of very loose facts. Please help us understand what was going on with that phone call where John was talking about someone breaking into his house. Is that as serious as it sounds? If it's not, let us know so we can shift the focus and get it moved in the right place. But it's just very tough when we don't have the simple elements of the case. And once again, please reach out to me if you're in law enforcement or John's family and have more details. Let's work together on this. Before I end today's video, I want to thank several new patrons, starting with Tony Riley, Laurette Cardediero, someone named, I believe it's Shazzy. It's funny because Patreon didn't have a name for them. It just said meet blank person. And Jacqueline McCall, thank you for increasing your pledge. If you'd like to support the channel, please head over to www.lordenarts.com where you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, or buy merchandise. All of it helps keep me here doing what I love doing, trying to help these families that need answers. And I can't do that without your help. So thank you guys so much. Take care. I'll be back on Friday with a brand new episode of Brainscratch right here on the Lord and Arts channel.